Shana Tova. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to delve with you into this Parsha, to Parsha Vayera, which, as Rabbi Rachel said, includes a story about two mothers, Sarah and Hagar, and one father, Abraham. As Rabbi Rachel pointed out to me when we were discussing this Parsha, one of the many alternative names for Rosh Hashanah is Hayom Harat Olam, or the day of the conception of the world. And appropriately, the Tanakh that we read on this holiday is chock full of stories about mothers, Sarah and Hagar, and also Hannah and Rachel. I'm hoping to take us in a different direction, however, and talk as a father about the father in today's Parsha, about Abraham. Before I get to Abraham, many of you know that there has been a lot of discussion recently about a crisis among men and boys in the United States. I've been really drawn to the work of the social scientist Richard Reeves, who has documented very well, I think, the faltering physical and mental health, waning economic prospects, and social isolation in particular, affecting many boys and men across the country. Reeves sees one common thread among boys and men who are struggling. The way he sees it, they're feeling unsure of where to find meaning and of how to contribute to the lives of others. Or in this phrase that Reeves uses in his very elegant British English, they feel surplus to needs. This sense of not knowing how to belong, how to be valuable to others. I think he's on to something here. I also really appreciate Reeves' insistence that seeking to support those who identify as male need not and must not come at the expense of women and girls. Throughout the ages, as you know, being a father or a father figure has been a crucial role that has contributed to feeling valued and important as a man. Traditional formulations of fathers and father figures as protectors and providers surely captures some aspects of the importance of being in these roles. In recent decades, of course, ideas about gender and about who provides and protects within families have undergone very welcome and important evolution in many societies around the world. At the same time, the role that men play as nurturers, caretakers, and attachment figures for children is often much less recognized and celebrated. Ask anyone who has attended a prenatal appointment or a pediatrics visit as a father or father figure, only to have the healthcare provider totally ignore their presence. Even with the greatest intentions to learn and contribute, men are often seen as surplus to needs in the context of caretaking. So I mention all of this as a roundabout way to invite us to contemplate the experiences of Abraham, the first father of the Jewish people in Parsha Vayera. I want to zoom in on a familiar and terribly heartbreaking part of the story. In a few short verses, Sarah gives birth to Isaac, the family celebrates with a feast, and then Sarah insists that Abraham cast Hagar and Ishmael out of the camp. We arrive at Genesis 21, verse 11, which reads, Vayirad avar meod be'anai Avraham al odot beno. The matter distressed Abraham greatly, for it concerned a son of his. This is the only window that we get into Abraham's experience as a father within this tragic episode. He's instructed by Sarah that he must expel his elder son and the boy's mother into the wilderness. And God tells him in the following verse that indeed he must follow Sarah's instruction. I'm sorry, I'll try to speak louder. This feels like a clear foreshadowing of the Parsha that we'll read tomorrow, on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, which is the Akedah, or the binding of Isaac, in which Abraham's inner experience is even more hidden from us as he packs firewood onto his donkey and wordlessly leads his younger son Isaac off to the land of Moriah. So what are we to make of all this? Of Abraham, the father of our fathers, allowing his sons to be placed in harm's way, one after the other. With Ishmael, we read that the matter distressed him greatly, but no more. With Isaac, there is not even an acknowledgement of distress. So why does Abraham acquiesce so readily? What does this tell us about Abraham as a father, whether as a protector and provider, or as a caretaker and nurturer? So let's go to the commentators. To understand these verses, I'll mention a couple. Or Hayim, the 18th century commentator from Morocco, focuses on Abraham's role as Ishmael's protector. The commentary reads, Abraham was afraid that the expulsion would result in Ishmael pursuing unwholesome activities because he felt rejected. He had to be concerned about this because Ishmael was his son after all. So this commentary suggests that Abraham was worried about Ishmael responding to rejection by turning rebellious. Commentators tell us that Ishmael was about 15 years old at the time. So I imagine, as the father of a teenager, I imagine Abraham lying awake at night, tossing and turning as he worries about his beloved son turning into some kind of biblical James Dean, smoking unfiltered cigarettes and driving way too fast on his motorcycle, such unwholesome activities for such a lovely boy. So turning to the Radak is the 11th and 12th century commentator in southern France. He focuses on an interpersonal dilemma that Abraham has. The commentary reads, "He loved him as a father loves one son. He was merciful toward him, like a father is merciful to all his children. Therefore, the request by Sarah to expel his own son was a source of great chagrin. Abraham kept his chagrin to himself and did not express anger at his wife because he was concerned with preserving shalom bayit, with peace in the home." So Radak invites us here to recognize the painful decisions that tragically emerge in too many families, in which loyalty and care for one member seems incompatible with loyalty and care for another. And Abraham is surely trying to reckon with God here and to make sense of the unique partnership that he and God have formed on behalf of Abraham's descendants, the descendants that begin with Isaac and Ishmael. Abraham must have been trying to understand this partnership with God in the context of the extraordinary and painful demands being placed upon him. These were demands to act against his instincts as a father to protect and nurture his dear sons. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks suggests a way to understand what's happening here. You'll remember that at the beginning of Abraham's story in Parsha Lech Lecha, God tells Abraham that he must leave the land and people of his birth, that he must separate himself from his father in order to receive God's blessing and to establish a nation from his line. Now, years later, on his own, and with a family of his own, a complicated family of his own, Abraham is told by God in consecutive parshot that he must separate himself from his beloved sons. Here I'll quote directly from Rabbi Sacks. "These painful episodes represent the agonizing birth pangs of a new way of thinking about humanity. First separate, and then connect. This seems to be the Jewish way. That is how God created the universe, by first separating domains, day and night, upper and lower waters, sea and dry land, and then allowing them to be filled. And that is how we create real personal relationships, by separating and leaving space for the other. Parents should not seek to control children. Spouses should not seek to control one another. It is the carefully calibrated distance between us in which a relationship allows each party to grow." That's all Rabbi Sacks. So as a son and a spouse and a father of two teenagers, one of whom happens to be named Isaac, I have to say simply, wow. The central dilemmas of family life are all here. Protecting versus challenging, holding tight versus letting go, steering towards a good future versus trusting our loved ones to find their own paths. It's easy to say that we believe in allowing children that we love to struggle and stumble and fall. It's immeasurably harder to allow it to happen in real time, even in the name of making space. But being involved in this struggle, this impossibly delicate and often clumsy balancing act with those whom we love most, this seems to be what it's all about. I think that this struggle is one way for us to avoid feeling surplus to need, and instead to feel deeply needed. Abraham was deeply needed by his sons. Did he let them down by not protecting and nurturing them in their moment of great vulnerability? Or did he create precious space for them to make their own ways in the world? However we interpret his actions, I feel sure that he suffered, that he agonized, that he prayed that he would do right by his sons as their father. Earlier this month, I attended one of the Shiva Minyanim for Stuart Baum of blessed memory. As our dear fellow congregant, his wife Noah, listened, hers and Stuart's adult children, Maya and Itai, told story after story about their dad. These were little stories, silly games with toddlers in the bathtub, patient help with math homework after school, encouragement not to take a job that didn't feel right during the transition to adulthood and independence. And at the same time, these seemed like massive stories. They were epics, really, about a father being present and making space, about how small moments can have impacts that outlast even the heartbreak of change and loss. So on this, the birthday of the world, I hope to offer a blessing to share one with all of us. May each of us play our small part in this intergenerational journey, Lador Vador, continuing what began 4,000 years ago with our foremothers and forefathers, protecting and nurturing, making space and getting in the way, getting it wrong, and getting it right. Shana Tova U'Metuka. This should be a good and sweet new year for all of us.